Okay, this is 3.3, two-way selection if else statements. Okay, so we're talking about if and else. We talked about if in the last lesson, but now we're going to introduce else. And when you see else, if you just look at this first couple lines of code, 1 through 11, you think of else as anything else, any other condition. If this is not true, anything else, do this, right? So it's kind of a catch-all, right? We'll learn about, I don't think we'll learn about exception handling this year in Java. I know, I don't think we'll be able to get to it. This is obviously film when this is an honors class, not the AP class. I don't think we're going to get that far, but exception handling is being able to deal with errors, and we learn about try. When we try something and we're able to catch it. If this thing isn't true, then catch it and do this, right? If this doesn't work, then do this. We have if and else statements here. All right. And it says, what if you want to pick between two different possibilities or even more? If you're trying to decide between a couple of things to do, you might flip a coin you might flip a coin and do one thing if it lands as heads and another if it lands tails. In programming, you can use the if keyword followed by a statement or block of statements, and then the else keyword also followed by a statement or a block of statements. All right, so we have our if and we have our else. So if, and then we evaluate the condition here. If it's true, do this. And then it moves on. Anything else, it sees the else keyword, it does this. Okay. Instead of writing a bunch of if, you can write if and then write else, and then we'll talk about else ifs later. It says a single if else if condition as well can be written like this if it's not a block of code. As I mentioned in the last lesson, it's probably good to get in the habit of always just putting your condition in curly braces so you don't forget. All right. The following flowchart demonstrates that if the condition is true, one block of statements is executed. But if the condition is false, a different block of statements is executed. So typically when we're making these visual diagrams, any sort of break or any sort of, I guess, decision would be the word, is typically represented by a diamond, right? That's just what it's represented by. So you typically see, when you see a diamond, you'll see a break. And then you'll have some sort of output that is then done, or some sort of statement or block of statement that runs based off of that decision. So the condition, right? Is it raining? If true, do this. If false, do this. And then move on to the next statement. All right. So if you're following this, right, this would be our if this is true, do this. And then else, if there's just two conditions that you're considering, or sorry, two different possibilities that you're considering, one condition, then you would move down this way. All right. Noticing that it then moves on to the next statement and continues running the program. The order that statements execute in a conditional with two options, if and else. It says the else will only execute if the condition is false. So in our original, we're looking at this example. If this is saying like, is it raining outside? If it's true, it will run the if and then skips over the else, right? It already ran this. It's not executing else, so it moves on to whatever's below line 11. All right, so if this is true, I skip over this. All right, try the following code. If is heads is true, it will print let's go to the game, and then after conditional. So let's take a look at this. We have our main method. we established a Boolean variable, and it says it's is heads, and we've assigned it the value true. We've initialized it. All right. And then it says if, and then it says really is heads equal to true, right? If it's equal to true, then it will print, let's go to the game. Okay. I guess we flip the coin. Do we go watch the Orioles play and maybe win one game this season? Do we do that, or do we watch a movie? And then regardless of whether this is true or not, it's still going to print the after conditional. And this is just an example. It wants us to run it. So we'll save it and run it. And since is heads is true, it runs line 8. It sees the else, skips over all of this, and then moves on and says after conditional. What if I assigned is heads the value false? Okay, I'll save and run it. It evaluates in line 6. If is heads, is it true? No, so it skips 7, 8, and 9. It then moves on to else, and it runs else, which prints out let's watch a movie. That's why let's watch a movie is down here. And then it prints out after conditional. All right, it continues to move on the program. And if I had lines of code here and here and here, it would continue. All right. I'm going to go ahead and put this back to true the way it was. Just a reminder, when we're dealing with Boolean values in Java, true is all lowercase, unlike some other programming languages. Okay, so we passed. Moving on. We already did this. Try changing the code above to Boolean is heads equals, or assign the value false. What line is printed before the after conditional? It was let's watch a movie. I'm just going to copy what it printed out. It says correct. If the Boolean value is false, the statement following the else will execute. And that was activity 332. Let's move on. It says if else statements can also be used with relational operators and numbers like below. If your code has an if else statement, you need to test it with 2 test cases to make sure that both parts of the code work. All right, let's take a look at this. It tells me to run the following code to see what it prints out when the variable age is set to the value 16. Okay, I'm going to run it. It says you can get a driver's license in most states. Now, I don't even know what ran. So let's first walk through the code, then we'll read what we're supposed to do. Okay, we have a new class called driver's license test. Okay, then we have our main method. We have initialized a variable. We've given this variable a value of 16 and called it age, and it's an integer. And then we said if age is greater than or equal to 16, even though it's not greater than, it is equal to 16. 16 is equal to 16, so it runs this line, and it says you can get a driver's license in most states. Then the else, right, if you were 15 years old, or if you were 14 years old, or 8 like my daughter, or 6 like my other daughter, it would run else, and it would say, sorry, you need to be older to get a driver's license. All right. And then we close out the program. What it asks us to do is change the variable ages value to 15. So I'm going to change that value to 15. And then run it again to see the result of the print statement in the else part. can you change the if statement to indicate that you can get a license at 15 instead of 16? We'll do that next. Okay, so we changed this to 15 and it ran, and the age was not greater than or equal to 16. So it ran the else and it said, sorry, you need to be older to get a driver's license. All right. Then it tells us, can you change the if statement to indicate that you can get a license at age 15 instead of 16? I think it should stay at 16, but it says use 2 test cases for the value of age to test your code to see the results of both print statements. All right, so I have ran my code. If you can get a license at 15, you're 15 years old. So it says you can get a driver's license in most states. All right, so we want to make sure that we have an if and we have an else. When we pass that, we'll move on. The following program should print out x is even if the remainder of x divided by 2 is 0. That makes sense. And x is odd otherwise, but the code is mixed up. All right, so we have our class, even or odd. I'm going to open it and then close it. Where is this? Is that what it wants me to do? That doesn't make sense. Doesn't line up. Are they going to be like this and not make things line up nicely? Yep. That's not nice. That's not nice either. That's going to bother me. See how those curly braces don't line up? They don't have to line up. All right, so first what we want to do is we want to assign our integer x a value of 92. All right, and then we want to be able to have our if and say if x, and we're using the modulus symbol. If the remainder, when you divide by 2, if the remainder is 0, then say x is even. This is really ugly code. I would not recommend writing your code like this. And then you say else x is odd. See what I mean? I don't like how they line this up. One, I don't like how they didn't line up the main method, the curly braces, or the class curly braces. And I also don't like how they didn't put system.out.println. I don't like how they didn't put this over here further. But it will still run. Just because I don't like it doesn't mean it won't run. So I have the public class, my main method. I've initialized x and set to the value of 92. This will print is even because 92 is an even number. Else, it says it's odd. Check it to make sure, and that's right. Okay. Moving on, it says try the following code. Add an else statement to the if statement that prints out good job if the score is greater than 9. Just try the following code. Add an else statement to the if statement that prints out good job. So let me go ahead and do that. So it says else, and else statement says good job, exclamation point. Yeah. And let me just line this up just so that way it's the same. So then it says the score is greater than 9. So add an else statement is greater than 9. So that gives you this. All right. Can you change the Boolean test to only print out good job if the score is greater than 20? So maybe it's not asking me to change any of this, okay? If the score is greater than 20. So when I think of that, make it so the else condition runs. All right, so it would only run if it is greater, if it's not. So if it's less than or equal to 19, it would only print good job, correct? If it's 20 or more, or greater than 20. So less than or equal to 20. And that's what I wrote, and I didn't like that. And look at that. I'm pretty sure we wrote that before.
We definitely did that. Got it.
I'm pretty sure we wrote that before. All right. So we went through. That's why I like just taking a break. Sometimes I'll be looking at code and I'll be so frustrated and I got to get up and look at it again. And just go through slower. All right, so we have our main class, or sorry, we have our class, we have our main method. We have an int called score assigned to the value of 8. If score is less than or equal to 20, try for higher score, else system.out.println. Good job. 331, nested ifs and dangling else. If statements can be nested inside other if statements. Sometimes with nested ifs, we find a dangling else that could potentially belong to either if statement. Okay, it's important to be able to line up everything, to be able to identify what ifs are actually being run and the order that they're being run. Typically, it's best to write it out originally in a flow chart and have different decisions being made via that way. It says the rule is that the else clause will always be a part of the closest if statement in the same block of code, regardless of indentation. Okay. So this gives you a nested if with a dangling else. Okay, we have an if inside of an if. And I could ask you several questions. Only if this first condition is true, then we'll actually move on to this if. All right, rather than moving on to a whole new if this is false, not running this. Try the following code with a dangling else. Notice that the indentation does not matter to the compiler, but you should make it your habit to use good indentation. Okay, like I mentioned, in Python, your indentation does matter, and you don't use curly braces, you use indentation instead. How can you get the else to belong to the first if statement? All right, so let's take a look at this. All right, so we have public static void main, our main method. Inside we have a Boolean value called sunny, and it's assigned the value true. We have hot, and it's assigned the value false. We've then led with if sunny, right? And then we have another one that says if hot, which would run if true. You would say system.out.println, head for the beach. Else, which if is the else attached to, okay, is attached to this one. So what I would need to do is, here's what I would like to see, even though it's only even one line, right? What I would like to do is I'd like to have something like this, system.out.println don't go to the beach. Oh, it says bring your umbrella. I see. We already had that. So I'll move this out. Else, do that. And I'll put that inside that curly brace right there. Those line up. If it's sunny, then look inside this block. All right. And one other thing that I can do as well, if sunny, if hot, head for the beach. Oh, sorry. The bring your umbrella was not if it's hot. I guess it's if it's actually not sunny. Else, bring an umbrella. All right, let's run this. Let's see what it looks like. There were errors compiling. I need a semicolon. There you go. Let's run again. And it ran. All right, so this first if, I was confused. I was thinking that it was head for the beach or bring your umbrella, but really, if it's sunny, do this. If it's raining, I guess, if it's cloudy, I don't know why you bring your umbrella. So this doesn't entirely make sense, but we've been able to identify that this should be run if it is sunny. And then another condition, if it's hot, head for the beach. It can be sunny and not hot, and probably not be the best beach experience if it's cold at the beach. Else, anything else, then do this. All right. What's up?
If we're gonna check it science, if it's hot, we just check if it's sunny and hot, because we're not doing anything else in the first if statement, so we should combine that into one conditional statement.
Yeah. I completely agree. I think they're trying to, in proper programming, I would entirely agree. But we haven't talked about some logical operators and an or yet. But yeah, so we could say like if sunny and hot, then do this. Now, if we did something like, all right, if it's sunny and it's not actually hot, then say don't go to the beach. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. And then it wants me to go back here. I'm just going to put where I had it. Yeah, I agree that's not the best example. So what we're saying is we could combine that to if sunny and hot. We could go through and just eliminate the need for having an if inside an if in that example, since there is not another condition that's being run. All right, we'll move on. You can use curly brackets or curly braces to enclose a nested if and have the else clause belong to the top level if the top level if clause like below. All right. And it shows us what a nested if and if inside an if, as we just had in our last example there. Okay, programming challenge. We encourage you to work in pairs. It says, have you ever played 20 questions? So you go through, it says 20 questions is a game where one person thinks of an object and the other player asks up to 20 questions to guess what it is. There's a great online version called Akinator. Never heard of it. It guesses whether you're thinking of a real or fictional character by asking you questions.
You should try it out.
Yeah,
It's really impressive.
is it?
Anything, it will guess it. Anything.
Let's take a look. Let's play it.
Well, it will take a little bit to train the data.
It takes a while.
Yeah, well, yeah, because it has to, you know, I don't know exactly how it's trained. How to, it has to have enough sample time.
So let's pick a character. All right, so let's pick a character. Han Solo. Has your character really existed? Like really, I guess like in real life. Is your character Japanese? No. Does your character have a human head? Yes. Is your character a girl? No. Has your character been in a movie? Yes. Has your character ever played in a superhero movie?
That's a question. No, it's not a superhero.
Star Wars is not a superhero movie. That's not. It's a science fiction movie.
Okay, so no. Is your character animated?
Well, maybe it's not animated. Say, or you, because he'll just ask other questions.
All right. Does your character have powers? Is your character bad? What is bad? I'll say no. Does your character often wear a hat? No. Is your character an adult man? Does your character use guns? Yes. Is the word for it gun though? Has your character been into space? Is your character associated with Beijing corn? What is that? Does your character wear a leopard print top? Does your character usually wear green? Is your character from Star Wars? Yes. Is your character a clone trooper? Does your character ski? Does your character wear a helmet? No. Does your character live with their family? No. Does your character have over 1 million followers? Has your character ever had a kiss scene in a movie? Is it yes? Is your character from This Special Friendship?
There was a deleted scene. I don't think that deleted
Was your character frozen for a long time? No.
Easy. Easy. Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
There you go. Got it.
Well done.
All right.
Of course.
They blocked it. Everything's blocked. Educational stuff is blocked. Okay, it's a simple AI algorithm that uses a decision tree of yes or no questions. So, it would go through and ask questions, yes or no. We'd finally try and get to our answer. Try the animal guessing program below and run it a couple times, thinking of an animal and answering the question with Y or N for yes or no. Oh, wow, it's multiple steps. Okay. Did it guess your animal? It can only guess 3 animals. All right, well, there you go. Let's zoom out here. All right, let's play 20 questions. Choose an animal and I'll try and guess it. Penguin. All right, is it a mammal? Penguins aren't mammals, are they? No. I guess a bird. Okay, I see. So it only says a bird, elephant, or a dog. All right. I'm not going to play that again. It says in the very last else clause, the program knows that it is not a mammal and guesses a bird. So let's look at the code.
I think it's gonna take one, but it's only gonna use, it's only use the scanner box once, right? And it doesn't use a 4 week or anything, so it can only do one question.
It can only take one question. All right. I guess a dog, I guess an elephant. So that's how it really runs. So look, check it out. You is it a pet? Sorry. If I said yes, I don't know, let's say yes. So is the mammal? Yes. Is it a pet? I guess let's say, I don't know. I'll make a animal. I'll do a lion. How about that? Do a lion. Is the pet? I guess a lion can be a pet, right? No, I guess an elephant wouldn't be a safe pet. My son, we have this animal book, and he's learning all the animals. And I'll say, "What sound does a puppy dog make? What sound does this make?" And when I say, "What sound does a lion make?" he just goes, "Bah," and that's his response back for what a lion makes. He can't say more than a couple words, but he's 1. He can say dada, he can say mama, he can say ball, he can say banana, and that's about it. Bar, because he likes Nutri-Grain bars. You say bar. Anything with a B, he's good at saying ba. In the very last else clause, the program knows that it's not a mammal and it gets a bird. Let's add to that part. Okay. Instead of saying I guess a bird, click on run to play again, change it to ask a question that distinguishes between birds and reptiles. For example, does it fly? Okay. So we're going to have to ask if it distinguishes between bird and reptiles. And then it looks like do I have to run another scanner, I'm guessing, with an if statement, and then determine dog. You could use code similar to distinguish between a bird and turtle. Run your code and test both possibilities. And all right. So copy and paste code from Replit and see it passes autocare tests. All right, let's go back to where we're at. So what it wants to do is it wants to look at where it says I guess a bird, and move away from that. And instead of guessing a bird, we're going to ask it something else. We're going to say, for example, we can say, does it fly? All right, so we'll do that. And put this here. And instead of running this instead of else, I can do else. Okay, I'll say else, does it fly? And then we will ask another question. What does it want me to ask? It says, all right, or I guess be able to receive that input. Then get their response and use an if statement to guess bird or turtle or another reptile. Okay, so I'm going to get the response. What it asked for before was I'll go ahead and store the answer as answer. And then I'll say if answer equals, dot equals, I'm sorry, dot equals yes, then I want to, let's see, I wanted to ask, then get the response and use an if statement to determine, to guess bird or turtle or another reptile. I'm sorry, if, does it fly? If yes, I'll say system out print line. Sorry, just looking back and forth here. I'm just trying to get exactly what it wants. Get the response and use an if statement to guess bird or turtle. Okay, so it'll be it. I guess a bird. We'll say else. Else, I guess a turtle. For example, there's how we decided to choose between a dog and an elephant. We asked the question, is it a pet? And you got a response. All right, so let me just look at this. All right, so we ask a question, is it a mammal? If it is a mammal, we ask if it's a pet. And then if it's yes, then we say it's a dog. Click on run the play again. If it's not a mammal, we ask a question, does it fly? Okay, then we use the scanner in order to store it as an answer. And then the answer dot equals, if it is Y, then it says, I guess a bird. Else, I guess a turtle. Let's see what this looks like. All right, so is it a mammal? No. Does it fly? No. I guess a turtle. Okay, let's move on. It says, did you notice that when it asked, is it a pet? And you said yes, and immediately guessed dog. What if you're thinking cat? Try to come up with a question that distinguishes between dogs and cats. Put the code in the correct place. All right, so is it a pet? If answer is yes, we can ask, what distinguishes between a dog and a cat? That's a good one. Some dogs have whiskers. Some dogs have like, what's the difference between a dog and a cat? Because you can have small dogs, you can have
I mean, just like big words like cat words.
yeah. I'm trying to think of something simple, and I can't think of something simple. So I'll just say that
Do they have claws?
dogs have claws,
It's like they don't-
nails. Is that what they're?
Cats can retract their claws.
Oh, there you go. Can it retract its claws? That's a good one. And then we'll go ahead and add this in here. I don't like how it didn't line up there. I don't like how this isn't lined up, so I'm gonna do that. I don't like how that's not lined up. All right. So let's go ahead here and say, can I retract this clause? If answer dot equals yes, I guess the method they had been using is by putting the curly brace right there. So I'll do that. If it's yes, then we can say, I guess system dot out dot print line. Let me move up the page here. System out dot print line. I guess a cat. Else else I guess a dog. All right. Let me clean up some of my code here. I'm going to take some of my curly braces and just move them next to this because that's just how it looked earlier. It doesn't really change anything, but just cleaning everything up. Let's line it, or let's run it, see what happens. Is the mammal? Yes. Is the pet? Yes. Can it retract its claws? Yes. I guess a cat. Let's run it again. Is it a mammal? Yes. Is it a pet? Yes. Can it retract its claws? No. And it runs and says, I guess a dog. Okay, so as you can see, there are ifs inside of ifs. These are called nested ifs. Right? Want to make sure to keep track of them. So I typically like lining them up. How many animals can your game guess now? How many test cases are needed? If your class has time, your teacher may ask you to expand this game or create something similar. You can expand this if you want. Copy and paste your code from REPL to see it pass the auto grader test. All right, so let's just take this. Copy and paste it. Let's run it. And it passes. All right. A bit of a summary here. I know we took some time on a couple of the problems, but once again, we have an if and we have an else. I think you guys know what an else does now. It forms branches in different flow control of the program. Two-way selection if else is written when there are two sets of statements, one to be executed if the Boolean condition is true and the other if it's false. Boolean is true, false. The body of the if statement is executed when the Boolean condition is true, and the body of the else is executed when the Boolean condition is false. Use two test cases to find errors or validate results to try both branches of an if-else statement. All right, that's everything. Just completed, well done. And that's 3-3 two-way selection if-else statements.